Picking it with Kay and Clay. 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 Hey everybody, thank you again for tuning in, whether you're watching us or you're listening to us on one of the audio only streaming platforms. Howdy. Thanks for kicking it with us. I'm your girl Kay Marie, and I am really ready for this the last installment of the self-care series. So we have been learning a lot. I know I have, with the guests I had on, different health and wellness coaches, giving us tips and practices and routines that we can implement in our everyday life. Like the first episode of this series, again, we had Tiara Scott. She talked about the physical aspect of self-care, getting more sleep, drinking more water, working out, meditating. And she mentioned, other points. So if you have not listened to that, listen to it. And then 2 weeks ago, we kicked it off with the mental health aspect, taking care of your mind, and the social aspect of self-care, which is so important because a lot of us, sometimes we hit the wall, we burn out and because we're doing too much. And Makisha, she gave us tips on how to prevent and avoid burnout and things that we can do, as well as things that we can do to help our social self-care, like volunteering, helping other people out. Because if you help other people out, that's going to not have you focus a lot on your problems, So, and it's always make you feel good when you help other people out. And then last week, we tackled the emotional part of self-care. And so this week, we are going to wrap it all up with a bow and talk about the spiritual side. And we know that every area of self-care, they all intertwine together. So a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about, we talked about before, but again, it all works together. So today, I have the pleasure of having Shannon Mae on. She is the founder of the Self Maed Retreats. It's a spiritual retreat for women of color. And this is a great place to go to when you just need some time to get away from everything. Okay. And she's going to tell us all about her retreats. And I'm looking forward to it because I am very interested in it. When I bring people on, I'm learning just like you, and that's on purpose. I don't want to come on here being fake, and I'm learning like you. I'm shocked like you. I'm learning like you, and I really want to know more about these retreats. So without further ado, let me introduce you all to Shannon Mae. Hey, Shannon.
Hello. Thank
How
you
are
for having
you?
me on.
Oh,
I'm
thank
doing
you for
all
coming
right.
on.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day out there.
It is.
hmm
I am in Michigan, and it was like in the 60s.
Yeah, it's probably about that. I'm in Pennsylvania, so it was
Hmm.
a beautiful day just to take a little walk outside, get your blood flowing.
Right. That's wonderful. So, like I mentioned to our audience here, you are the founder and CEO of Self Made, and I like that. It's like your name and with the D on it. I love that. It's so clever.
If you only knew how long it took me to come up with that name.
How long you was agonizing over it?
Oh, a year.
Oh.
A year. The first time we hosted a retreat was in
Hmm.
January 2019. And I knew I wanted to do the retreat, so I just did it, right?
Hmm.
No name, nothing.
Okay.
And it took me a year to figure out the name, and it all boiled down to self-made, which is the spin on my middle name. Made actually is an acronym for meditate, align, enlighten, and discover.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of came to me actually in a solo, what I call solo retreat, right? Like a staycation. I'm good for a staycation. When I
Okay.
need to get away, I go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it took me a long time to come up
Really?
with
So how did you actually come up with it?
It's funny because I was just doodling. I put it on my Facebook and my Instagram. I was just doodling and I put May, right? And I put a heart around and I was just,
Right.
kind of like it was a mindful activity. So I was present in what I was doing, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, just letting your spirit move you. And I was just kind of writing it out. And then I just started playing with the acronym and I was just
Mm-hmm.
May. And then I said, thought about the journey a little bit. And I said, self-made, like we think about self-made and it's always attached to the physical realm of material things, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
Riches
true.
and like, everything external to ourselves. But like self-made with that small little twist, it's really kind of focusing on our energy,
Right.
um, our internal selves and how rich are we really, right? In our happiness and how rich are we really in space for ourselves. So it almost kind of came together perfectly. But
Mm.
that's what I wanted to focus on is, being self-made through our healing processes.
That's awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, Shannon has a special treat for one listener.
Mhm.
She's going to be, because we're going to get into it. She has a store also, and she's going to be giving one of our listeners a journal. We talked about journaling in 2 episodes ago in the mental taking care of your mind episode. So that is really important, and you can go ahead and put one of those self-care practices into practice.
Yeah.
And we're going to give that away in the middle of the show. You have to listen to the answer of a question that I'm going to ask her, okay, later in the show. So just be on the lookout for that. And thank you so much, Shannon, for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, how did you come about getting these retreats? What made you want to get into the whole self care um, area?
Yeah. So we're jumping right in,
Yeah,
right? We're jumping right in.
right
All
in.
right. So I'm very transparent, right? And a part of the values of the brand is to be authentic. So,
Hmm.
for all your listeners and for you getting to know me, like just know when you ask a question, it's gonna get real.
Okay,
Um, so
I like that.
so yeah, it actually was a journey, right? Like I don't think there was any one event. Like throughout life, I think women, we experience multiple things that kind of transform us into that next phase of our womanhood. So I think it was really like a journey over time
Hmm.
that ended with this name Self-Made. But I think one particular event in 2013, I shouldn't even say one, there were three traumatic life experiences, right? Like hit me back to back. It's like that,
Hmm.
that 1 year when you just can't get a break. And it was
Yes.
like boom in January, right? And then I actually hit depression. I didn't know it.
Mm.
And, I kept fighting through. I was like, man, I feel weird. I
Yeah.
don't feel good. And even went to the doctor. I went to 3 doctors, right?
Mm.
Like I went to my regular doctor.
Yeah.
I went to my OB, and I'm like, I just don't, I don't know what's wrong. I can't shake this. And then boom, May, something else happened, right? Real traumatic. And I tried to fight through it. And, my doctors would tell me, I think you're depressed. And I'm like, no,
Mm.
I'm not depressed, right?
Right, because we all have a picture of what depression looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because at this time I wasn't as strong as a mental health advocate. This is probably also a turning point that turned me into a strong advocate for mental health because I was
Mhm.
fighting that stigma, right?
Yeah.
Like, me, I got this, I'm strong. I got it. Like this,
Yeah.
and I actually probably was that image of depressed. I was crying all the time, right? Like crying,
Mm.
like my head hurt, my jaws couldn't get up. I don't know how I even kept my job that year because I was going to work late, coming, leaving early. I was
Mhm.
just down bad and made it through the summer. Boom, October, something else. And I think that was kind of that moment where it was time, right? Because I started to have, thoughts of, harming myself and
Mhm.
just didn't have any outlets. So it was time. So I started therapy and I promised myself that I would do therapy and medication because I was clinically depressed and really
Okay.
things that wasn't good. So I did both of those. I promised her, I said, just 6 months. If it
Mhm.
doesn't work, because I didn't believe it would. I was like, if it doesn't work, then, So 6 months, right? And I had a pretty good connection with my therapist. I interviewed like 4 therapists.
You have to, and that's a good point.
Yep.
Let me just stop you right there. That's
Hmm.
a good point. You don't have to stick with one type of therapist. If they're not doing it for you, you have the option to go find someone else that you click with. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important because if you don't have the connection or the trust with the
Mm-hmm.
person sitting across from you, you're not going to get as real, raw, and
Mm-hmm.
authentic as you need to be, right?
That's
And like
right.
that's a space you have to be able to get raw and get deep
Yes.
in order to start that healing process. So it did. It took me 4, started the journey, and at the end of the 6 months, I was actually in a place where I was able to actually articulate, right, like what was the problem.
Okay.
And I got to a point I was like, okay, therapy helped me figure out what the problem was. I'm able to talk about this, but there was still a void. There was still something that I just couldn't like fulfill in therapy. And I had always wanted to travel. And one day
Mm.
I was sitting there and I said, no, I'm going to go to China.
Mm.
Just like that. So I'm going to go to China. And I bought a ticket for 2 weeks from that moment.
Okay.
Bought a ticket, called my dad, and I was like, Daddy, I'm going.
Right. Cause that's not a turnaround trip. So you gotta.
It's not. And I just bought this ticket
Uh,
and learned a lot about traveling and visas. And I left, for 2 weeks, for a week, 2 weeks after that moment. And it was a beautiful start of transformation for me.
mm,
I remember the movie Eat, Love, Pray. It
okay.
reminds me of that, right? Like
Okay.
kind of just finding yourself. Um, it was a very deep moment of self-reflection and getting to know myself through other cultures, right? Because like I didn't
Mm,
fit into the culture. So I had to really like delve deeper, like, who am I?
mhm.
Like who am I? And yeah, that's what started this spark and love for travel and traveling and finding spaces out there with yoga and meditation was really what started the whole journey for self-made retreats.
Oh wow. So China, how was that?
Yeah, China. I've been, I think, 4 times now,
Oh wow.
and China is a beautiful country, right? Huge country, and I can't lie. So I'm trying to be careful with my words. But the first time I went, I'm like, this food is nasty, right? I was like, this is not like American Chinese food. There was no General
No.
Tso's, right?
Right, right, right.
Like, so, the first time I went, I actually didn't have a true culturally authentic experience because I wouldn't allow myself, right? I was still mentally blocked. So I would go to Subway and Kentucky Fried
Okay.
Chicken, which didn't even taste like Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until maybe the second, third time that I started to open up a little more and have
Okay.
experience. But I like China. Thailand's probably one of my favorite countries.
Hmm. Okay.
So,
So what on that first trip was that spark, that turnaround to make you go into that transformation?
mm, um, I think it would have been the experience going to the Great Wall of China.
Mm,
Um, so much deep history there, and just having that moment to sit, with such a culturally rich history, and do some self reflection. There was nothing in that space that was triggering to home for me. Right? There
mhm,
was nothing in that space that made me feel unsafe.
mm,
And I think at that moment where I really was able to kind of sit in peace, watching the sunrise and just sit with
mm.
myself, it was like that moment was like, there needs to be some spaces like this, right?
Okay.
At that time, this is in 2013, I couldn't find any retreat spaces that were built for women of color. And
Okay.
that's now since have changed.
Yeah.
But for me, just in my personal preference, it was really hard for me to hold space, right, with white women who couldn't really identify with some of the
Mhm.
struggles,
Yeah.
and I felt like those spaces could be violent in some ways. So that was that moment on the Great Wall of China was the spark.
Okay. And you said that, and you had to be still with yourself when you got to that moment.
Mhm.
So is that what kind of catapulted you into starting your own retreats other than when you said that it was not at that time, it wasn't, you couldn't find any like for women of color.
Mhm.
So was that instrumental in starting your own?
I would say yes and no. So
Okay.
this was 2014. I went to China. It's funny because Facebook likes to remind you of your past, right? And pop
Yes.
up with these memories all the time. And somewhere along the way, in 2013, I had actually put out in the universe that I wanted to have a retreat for women.
Okay.
And I don't know if that moment was as profound because I don't even remember writing the post, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
here I am in 2014,
Mm,
actually traveling. And then, so it really started to manifest itself from there. And I think the trip in Thailand was really where I was like, okay, this has to be a thing because, these spaces are needed. And I went twice to Thailand. But I think that, throughout 2014, 15, and those multiple traveling experiences, and solo travel was a big part of it as well,
mhm.
right? And I think it was kind of more of that journey of healing. And, traveling was a piece of it. But when I would
Yeah.
go, I want to do my yoga or I would do meditation. And my friends were like, come on, we gotta go. I'm like, no, like, I don't, this isn't that same type of trip. I don't want to go to the club. I don't really want to
Yeah.
see I really wanted to sit with nature. I even went
Yeah.
to meditate with monks and dragged my friend along with me. She was like, girl, trying to sit still. And I'm like,
Yes.
it just kind of started a whole different type of travel.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the question for the journal. So after China, where was the second country you traveled to?
You Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah,
Okay. Thailand, y'all. That's the answer. Okay.
same.
All right. So now get into your business.
Mhm.
What is it and what does it entail? Just break it all down for us because it might be some women that's watching. They're like, I need to be still. I need to go somewhere. I need to this retreat sounds very interesting. So for someone who wants more information like myself, so what does that entails and when did you start it?
So a retreat. I'll start with this. I think that retreats are somewhat of like a foreign vocabulary word, right? Like we know what vacations are.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of compare retreats to vacation.
Okay.
Usually when you're planning a vacation, right, you're planning with all your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Half your friends don't have the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So either you're going or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to your destination, your agenda is usually around what everybody else wants to do.
Yeah.
And then vacations are meant to be these trips that offer us rest and relaxation, right? But then it usually becomes packed with agenda and activities, and then everybody's arguing over what they want to eat, right? And then you get
Yeah.
drunk, and now you got to get, you got to take
Yeah.
care of your hangovers. So like a vacation is filled with fun, right? Maybe some stress. And
Mm-hmm.
usually on vacations, you're not left with stillness. You're not left with a moment just to be. You're really kind of placing yourself out of your environment just to be as busy as you were when you were in your environment.
Right.
So a retreat, one of the unique things about a retreat is that you don't have to go with your friends, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
have to wait for your friends. You can travel as long as you're comfortable traveling alone, and if you're not, call me. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I
Because that
love
in
solo traveling. Love it.
yes, and solo travel in itself is just so
Yes.
powerful. Um, but you can come to retreats by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get there, you're in community with other women, hopefully women that you feel you have some likeness to. And then once you're at the retreat, at least a self-made retreat, you can do as little or as much as you choose, right? We'll have some agenda. We'll have lots of open time where you can do what you want to do, but you can engage or not engage, right? Like you really kind of just do what you need to do for yourself. You'll experience yoga, you'll experience meditation, you'll have workshops and how to kind of dive a little deeper. Um, at the end of a retreat, depending on which retreat, and I'll get to that in a minute,
Okay.
you may actually experience a transformation in its own, right? Like you may get there and find some clarity on something that you just couldn't find clarity on. You might get to a retreat and change, right? Like you
Mhm.
might come home a vegan, or you might come
Mhm.
home, with a whole new set of routines, or you may just come back with a renewed sense of self. Like this is who I am, and be grounded in that. Um, with some of our retreats, they're themed, but at every retreat, you can look forward to those as the key
Okay.
elements. Mhm.
Okay. So, what are some of your retreats, and break down the whole retreat? Like, what do you do from start to finish?
Yes, love it, love it. So, for self-made retreats, we try to host three different destination type of retreats.
Okay.
International retreats. With international retreats, we hope to lean into the culture of the country that we're in, learning new mindfulness skills. The beautiful thing about being in another country is that you have to be present, right? Because now
Mhm.
your safety is in mind, right? Like you need to
Mhm.
be in the moment. And then there's so many new things, new flavors of food, new dialogues with strangers, that you're so present in the moment, you kind of almost naturally let go. Domestic retreats often have a theme. So we have a retreat that's coming up in May. It's actually sold out. So that's, a beautiful thing. But this particular retreat is around spa wellness. So we're going to do some spa treatments, which is
Mm.
included in the package, nature hikes, yoga, meditation, right? And kind of just more of a, we've all been wrapped up in COVID. Let's just kind of come together, bond,
Yeah.
and just take care of ourselves physically. And then our virtual retreats, which we'll be launching one this summer, will allow women just to do it at home, right? And to
Mm.
access some of these things right in the comfort of their own home. We'll kind of walk through how to make your home more compatible to a wellness journey, so
Wow.
that maybe you can even transform your home, you know, to complement what a retreat experience would be. So we have those three different tiers because we don't want to let any of our women feel left out, right? Because
Yeah.
domestic travel and international travel can get costly,
Yes.
but there's something for our women at home as well.
That is nice. I like that idea. So how many women do you is allotted in in the retreats, in the international, the domestic?
Whew. So COVID or like pre-COVID?
Right. Oh my gosh. Right.
I don't even know when pre-COVID is going to
Right.
end. I
Right. Right.
can, I can tell you, even when founding Self-Made, it's always been the idea that our retreats are small and intimate.
Yeah.
So the idea would not to be over 15.
Okay.
Yep, not to be over 15. The sweet spot right now for COVID is between 6 and 10,
Mm.
depending on the venue. So we're trying to pair women in their own rooms,
Okay.
unless you want to come with a close friend or family, right? And you can share a room. Like the one in the Poconos, we're doing 6 because this is our first physical retreat during COVID. So we're
Mhm.
doing 6 women, all have private room, private bathrooms. We have a retreat coming up in August, right? It's going to be the first international retreat. So get your passport.
All right.
And all the women will have their own private room, private bed, private shower, private pool. So that one will also kind of be wrapped in some wellness and mindfulness as well. So right now, that sweet spot is between 6 and 10.
Okay. So the one that's coming up in May, that's sold out, and kudos to you. Where are you guys going for that one? Is that the Poconos one or?
Yeah, it's the Poconos,
Mm,
PA. Yeah, yeah.
mm.
So.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So about yeah, and it's not that many.
Mhm,
I like that because a lot of
mhm,
retreats, it is a lot of people.
mhm,
It's a lot
mhm.
of people, and I like the intimate. I like the more intimate. I'm an introvert, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the more intimate feel of that. I really like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. It kind of allows you to really like be seen and heard, right?
Hmm.
Um, one center of a self-made retreat is that I really want women to do some self-exploration.
Hmm.
Sometimes that just comes out as like, word vomit in a sister circle and really allow you to talk through it until you find an aha moment. It's difficult to do that when you have 25 women, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
then 25 women, and now you're kind of thinking like, I don't want everybody in my business.
Right.
So it leaves less opportunity to bond and to have a little bit more of an intimate connection with everybody there. So
Okay. So now at these retreats, is it do you have other people with you, or how does this work? Like, what are the what are the other people's roles?
that's funny you say that, because just this morning I was talking to a friend and I said, I think I'm going to need an assistant, especially for the
Mm,
international. For the Poconos trip, I plan to have a photographer there
okay.
who won't room with us, but will come to key moments and events
Mhm,
and take some pictures. She's a phenomenal student from Philadelphia,
okay.
who also helps with different aspects in the business. And definitely for international trips, I'll have to have at least an assistant there, right? Because women will kind of lean into me for
Mhm,
some of their deeper needs, and I'll
mhm.
just need somebody to kind of help with the logistics and the operations as well. So
Okay. So, like, what are like you can give us some examples, like from your past some retreats, or some of like the workshops.
that's a great question. So I'll kind of go both with the theme and then also just mindfulness. So yoga, meditation, right? Mindfulness. Um, I have a sweet spot for first everything, right? Like I was
Mhm,
first generation. I was first to start healing generational wounds, right? I was like the first of your family. So
mhm.
I'm very aware that, some women may not have had any experiences with these things. So we're very beginner friendly. So as a theme, that's one of those common threads that you'll find. We're actually launching a mindfulness course, um, two parts, one beginner and then a second part for intermediate. And for beginners, if you just want to learn more mindfulness skills, enhance your retreat experience, you'll have, opportunity to select one of those courses before coming to a self-made retreat. The vision for that women will be able to do a part one, part two, and then end in a bundle package in a silent retreat.
Mm.
So again, agenda could look very different depending on the theme. So a silent retreat would kind of delve into different mindfulness activities, but you don't make eye contact, right? You're kind of sitting in silence, and that's difficult,
Mm. Yeah,
especially
yeah, yeah. Especially
right?
for someone who's always
On the
going and
go,
going and going and always getting pulled on and pulled on, just
right?
to sit still. That oh wow, that's
Yeah.
so okay. Do me a favor, just
Mhm.
in case someone is listening, they're like, what is mindfulness? She keeps saying mindfulness. So what exactly is mindfulness?
Yeah, it is being present
Mm.
in the right here, right now, right? Like, and I know everybody can relate to this. How many times are we sitting, somewhere and we're trying to do one thing, but our mind is on what
Woo.
we have to do tomorrow, what we did yesterday, that one thing that we regret. I got to cook dinner, and then don't be in the midst of a storm right now. You're thinking about the heartbreak, and there's
Yeah.
so many things that our mind is constantly racing. Mindfulness is a skill that kind of brings you right back into the moment, right here, right? So it allows you to kind of declutter your mind,
Mm.
de-stressing yourself, finding some inner peace, and enjoying life, right? Like
Mhm.
I have a 3-year-old, and oftentimes I'm at home and I'm thinking about work, and she's asking me questions, and I'm like, yeah, 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 right? And then there's these moments where I take my deep breath and I'm like, and I just look and I'm like, man, she's so happy and she's, in her own world. And then I try
Yeah,
to be more present in that moment, so I'm not missing those most precious moments in life.
I like that. Okay, and before we wrap up, I need to know what is one of your memorable experiences from your retreats that have to do with, one a lady that stick out with you the most.
Yeah. So I said that I kind of have like the soft spot for like women who are kind of journeying that first, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a woman who actually attended our first retreat back when we didn't have a name, right? We just knew we wanted to do a retreat. And when she showed up, I think she was a little nervous. She's like, I've never done yoga. I don't know how to do these things. Somebody told me to come. They paid for me to come. So here I am. And I said, I got you, sis, right? Like, just be open and willing. And she left, and I when at the end of the retreat, gave her yoga mat and all these things. And she said she had a great time. Actually, one of her quotes was that the retreat changed her life, right? And then I happened to be hosting a yoga class in her city, and she showed up. Right. And then most recently, she told me that she continues to do yoga and mindfulness as tools in her life. And she's actually coming to the May retreat. So, for her to never have experienced these things, now to intertwine that in her life as a tool to be able to take care of herself, like that just brings me so much joy. And I think that's the most memorable.
This was good. It's like, we're talking about, just being present. We're talking about just being still. And I don't know. I just feel so much peace. I do. I do. I just feel right now. It's just so peaceful. This is like a peaceful conversation. And I can just imagine what the retreats are like. And so for you guys who are listening, Shannon can be contacted through the website SelfMade. That's SelfMaed.com. Okay, to learn more about these retreats. And remember, if you don't want to travel right now, we understand that. She has a virtual. You can do a virtual retreat. Okay. And you can look her up on Instagram at SelfMade. Again, that's MAED. And Facebook, Self Maed Wellness Retreats. This was awesome. This was like the perfect wrap up to the whole series. It's just, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the ladies that's about to embark on this journey, and I'm excited just for, I don't know, I just seen it being really, really, really big. I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because
I
it's
hope I
something
can,
that's needed.
thank you. Yeah, I hope I can get you to a retreat,
Oh
right?
yes, most
So
definitely
you
you
can
will.
experience it because once you go out there on the retreat once, I'm telling you, it'll be addicting. You'll think one time a year. I just need one retreat one time a year,
Yeah,
because that space, that time away is just needed.
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely gonna do a domestic one and probably get a friend with me. Um, yeah, this is, ladies. Come on now, get that girls trip going on. A lot of times, like Shannon said, we don't have to go to the clubs and go out and get liquored up and get drunk and stuff. A lot of times, being just a good friend. You want to see your friend that that's might have be struggling in some areas. You this would be a great way to just bond and or just have her just open up and just release whatever that's have her bogged down. It's just it would be a great girls trip. I mean, it would.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah. All right. So thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much,
Yeah.
Shannon.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I just love chatting with you. Your personality, you're
Aw.
just so vibrant. I just love all the energy that you've given us, and thank you for having me on your show.
No, thank you for coming on. She shared with me, everyone, that this is like her first recorded podcast. So I'm so excited. It will not be your last, trust me. It will not.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, you can catch us on all the major streaming platforms, all except for Tidal and Pandora. I just don't feel like doing all that paperwork right now. Uh, so, and if you want to watch the podcast, you know that you can watch on our Facebook page, you can watch on our Instagram, and you can watch on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And this is something that you really want to pass along. And in April, we're going to start a new series, a transformation series. So it's going to be different types of stories. We're going to hear from people from different transformations they embarked on in their life. Okay. Again, thank you so much, Shannon. And to everybody else out there, we'll see you next week and have a good one. Bye. Isn't it for Kay and Clay?